We will start our webinar today, and thanks for joining to all participants. It's really exciting for us to discuss the sustainability issues today, and we all probably can feel that the sustainability issues are becoming more and more important actually, and in not only large-scale businesses, but also in small and medium companies, and especially for the businesses that they are working with the foreign markets, or if they need investments or some financing. And actually, as we already are having European sustainability reporting standards, it is clear now what kind of topics and subtopics companies should and already have to report according to the Corporate Sustainability Directive. And today we want to focus on social matters, because we all are aware that ESG is not only about E and G, but is also about S. And the especially important social aspects are also discussed in the directive. And we are having even 4 standards about social issues. Today, I'm very excited to hear presentations not about theoretical topics, but about practical issues. And our wish is that for you, dear participants, you will hear some kind of advice or some kind of one useful issue that you can use in your own business or your own practice. So we will hear today real cases from Oslo, from Norwegian side, and our presenter Cecilie will introduce social aspects that are now acting in and is really happening in Oslo. Also, we will hear the case from Lithuania, from Vilnius speaker, from our speaker Rūta, and also from the Rimi, from the retailer business. We also hear about social responsibility implementation in their retailer business. We are having 1 hour and a half, so I also encourage you all to participate proactively. We are having Q&A section, so please give your questions there, and we will be happy to respond, to answer them after our speakers. We will have our discussion, our panel discussion. And also I want to tell special thanks to our TELFA network, which is independent law firms network in the all around the Europe, with the 26 jurisdictions and more than 1,000 lawyers. And we are happy that we are members of TELFA network as a ILAW LEXTAL law firm. And really, TELFA is helping us to help our customers, our businesses, to advise with cross-border issues. And we really noticed that ESG is especially cross-border issue, that it's really EU regulation. And also we are happy to have our partners from abroad advices and to share the experience. So I'm happy to give the stage to our first speaker, our associate partner, Rūta Globytė, our employment law lawyer, and Rūta will introduce us the case of Lithuania regulation. The stage is yours, Rūta. Welcome.
Thank you, Vilma. Hello, everyone. So as Vilma introduced me, I'm Rūta Globytė, attorney at law at ILAW LEXTAL Vilnius office. So today I have a very brief presentation of 15 minutes. So I will try to give you as much tips as I can from my previous practice working on one of the social aspects, which is bullying and harassment. So once we are talking about part of ESG, right? Social aspects. So we can talk about diversity, about inclusion, about human rights, anti-discrimination, health and safety, data privacy. But we cannot forget the one of the most important things, bullying and harassment at work and its prevention. So once we're talking about bullying and harassment at work, we can divide it into 2 different columns, and we can talk about about health and well-being, which is, evaluating employees' access to health and wellness programs, the monitoring the atmosphere at the company, how everyone's feeling, is there enough equality, and so on and so forth. And we are also talking about workplace ethics and conduct in order to monitoring ethics related to complaints and effectiveness. We can also add the whistleblowing policies and so on and so forth. So once we are talking about bullying and harassment at work, we think not only about health and safety per se, but we also think what the company can do in order to establish the policies, establish the good practices when employees can report some kind of the behavior which is related or to bullying and harassment or is bullying and harassment, and what the company can do in order to educate employees, in order to show them how to address these issues and how to create the health and safety at work and not a hostile environment once we are talking about the social aspect. When we are assisting, we also have to talk about assisting ESG performance in the workplace. So harassment and bullying at work can range from unwelcome remarks and unwanted and unwarranted criticism to even physical violence and isolation. Why I chose bullying and harassment and its prevention when we are talking about the Lithuanians' perspective, one of the most important reasons in that is that from 2022, we do have the legal provisions established in our main legal document, which is the Labor Code of the Republic of Lithuania. And we have the very clear provisions on what companies have to do in order to ensure that employees are safe at work, not only from physical perspective, but psychological as well. So we have a law on that, and all the companies which average employees number is 50 and more has an obligation not only to take a look at the psychological risk assessments, but also has to have the anti-bullying and harassment policies established in the company, and also have to have other preventative measures established, about which I'm going to talk in a couple of minutes. So basically, Lithuania here is a good example showing how to try to prevent any kind of bullying and harassment issues in the company, or if any already is there, how to make them stop, how to make sure that any complaints which are addressed to the company is solved, how to take care of the employee who suffered bullying and harassment, and so on and so forth. So we are here a good example showing that we are taking a serious look at the social aspect, especially from the bullying and harassment and work perspective. So I've been talking a little bit about some kind of the expressions of bullying and harassment at work, which is, as I mentioned, unwelcome behavior, unwarranted criticism, even sometimes physical violence. So these behaviors, they not only create a hostile work environment, but can also have a severe psychological impact on bullying and harassment victims. And here, when we have employers' obligations, we have to take a very and we have to pay a very good attention here in order to have a measure how to solve it. So employers have a responsibility to foster a workplace culture where such behavior are not tolerated at all, and to take an action against them when they occur. Addressing the bullying and harassment at work is also important when we range all this important behavior. In order to protect employees, employer has an obligation to take several preventive measures. I divided all those measures in 2 different columns, called them soft ones and hard ones. So once I'm talking about the soft ones, so what kind of measures it can be. So it might be trainings for employees and especially managers, especially C-level managers, general managers, whatever kind of different managers company has, to train them how to solve conflicts in the company, how to give the constructive feedback for their teams, and so on and so forth. Help them understanding the role of the conflict itself, uniting the team, to let them know how to express the message to the employees that you should feel safe at the company. You can come and talk to any of your managers or HR manager and to address the problems which you think you are suffering. And then, of course, we have those so-called hard measures. So I'm talking here about policy on the prevention of psychological violence, where the company should indicate what should be done if employee feels that he or she suffers any kind of bullying and harassment at work, where any kind of complaints should be addressed. Is any kind of the person addressed to solve these issues, and what preventative measures should be taken. There is also a recommendation to have declaration of intolerance, any kind of intolerance behavior, and to acknowledge employees with the definition of the bullying and harassment forms, such as slander, accusations, threats, manipulations, some kind of the humiliation, unwelcoming gestures, and so on and so forth. So we have lots of different forms of bullying and harassment at work, and employees in this particular place should be educated and trained how to differ from one of the other. Let's say how to differ some kind of the sarcasm or manipulation from constructive feedback, because it's mixed sometimes from the employee's perspective. So trainings, communication, and education of employees, it's very important when we are talking about the preventive measures. Other measures, hard ones, which can also be taken into account, and what company can do is assisting to those who feels under stress or things that suffered bullying and harassment. Maybe hire or outsource the psychologist, where employees can talk to, appoint a responsible person who is responsible for anti-bullying and harassment at work measures taken, arrange regular meetings with the managers, establish internal communication channel where employees can submit the claims or can also express their concerns on particular bullying and harassment cases at work, and also impact on abuser, provide impact on abuser measures, some kind of the investigations on possible breach of job duties, or maybe even in some cases talk to about exit plan from the company if we indicate the abuser in the company. So we have those soft and hard preventative measures. We also can add more measures to this list. It's just the example, but this is the step number 1, which can company take in order to make sure that all the risk on bullying and harassment at work is taken into account. So another thing which is also important to talk a little bit is ESG reporting on social issues. That's why we are also talking about bullying and harassment, and one of the factors from the social aspect. So with the introduction of regulations like the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, companies will be required to report on wider range of ESG impact and including social factors as well, such as working condition and community impact. So this also increased transparency, which can drive improvements in how companies address social issues, including bullying as harassment, as I said. And for conclusions, I would like to know that addressing social matters such as bullying and harassment in the workplace is a crucial aspect of a company's ESG strategy. By fostering a culture of inclusivity, respect, and safety, organizations can not only comply with the regulatory requirements, such as Lithuania has, right? The provisions indicated and established in the Labor Code of the Republic of Lithuania, but also enhance their reputation, employee satisfaction, and overall business performance. So that would be it from my perspective, talking about bullying and harassment at work from social aspects when we're talking about ESG. Thank you.
Thank you, Rūta. It was really interesting and effective. And I believe we will have some questions to you later on. And it's really important, I think, for us also as the lawyers to educate businesses and our customers about the social responsibility and about the culture. As you said, at the company. Last week, we have visited one of our customers, a production company, and we raised, for example, a question why we have different salaries for women in your factory. And the owner of the company said, because women just deserve less. And as he said it in all around his management, so the culture is really harmful. So that is one of the examples that we really have to work hard by changing the understanding and the and all the mindset of the social responsibility. Thank you, Rūta. And I would like to invite our second speaker. I would like to invite Cecilie from Oslo, from our TELFA member Berngaard. Sorry if I pronounce it bad. Law firm, yes. And actually, Berngaard is a full-service law firm leading in the sustainability field. And Cecilie is a lawyer who has really worked with compliance and sustainability from various angles, including consulting, public enforcement, acting as a combined compliance officer, and other different fields. So really keen on to hear her presentation. The stage is yours. Welcome, Cecilie.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for attending this webinar on social sustainability matters or issues in the Nordic countries. So I come from Oslo, Norway, and over the last month, we've actually had a very interesting case in the media based on the legal practice. So this is a case that I thought I will use as a basis for my presentation to you today, setting out expectations and how to handle expectations in the social in the social dimension of ESG. Applied on law firms, but of course what I say now, okay, it's sort of based on a real story, but I think when you listen, try and apply it to your own workplace, and not only your own workplace directly, but also how you could apply the social dimension in your understanding of your partners and your supply chains. Because as you know, being a law firm or being an office workplace. We're not part of any industry. Everything can seem to be very in good shape and order and regulated and so on. But of course, behind the scenes, some people are working really, really hard in law firms, in architectural firms, in consultancy firms, as doctors, as engineers. So try to sort of apply my story to how you can ask your partners and suppliers about their social aspect, and also how you from your companies can initiate a stakeholder dialogue. So, but the story behind my presentation is that over the last decade, over the last couple of years, Norway's most successful law firm over the last decade has attracted significant media attention. And as you can see on the right side of this slide, these are 5 editorial articles of the Norwegian version of Financial Times, so to speak. It's our business newspaper, Dagens Næringsliv. And they've had these 5 editorial articles over the last month. And then there has also been a few letters from readers. I'm one of them, so I will get to my letter in a little while. But I also want to, although the newspaper, of course, is in Norwegian, down on the right-hand side of my slides, you can see the links to the specific articles that I refer to. But we will first look at this bottom article, which was the first one. And I think it was over like 16 pages or something like that in the paper. And I know that the paper has worked on this article for a very long time, possibly a couple of years. And they have obtained some statements from previous employees and partners of that company. And as you can see on my left-hand side, the statements are quite harsh. Obviously, this is not the public translation, but it's my office translation. But one lawyer, having worked with this law firm before, the law firm is named Schjøtt. So one lawyer, having worked with them before, now says to this newspaper, it's the closest you can get to a concentration camp in the legal profession. Another former partner says that, and the gender of that partner is not revealed in the paper, but this person is saying that he or she becomes physically ill when thinking about or talking about his or her time with this company. And yet another lawyer gets furious when talking about it, right? So the one former partner sums it all up, saying the glue in this law firm has consisted of fear and money. And when you know that the social dimension of ESG is about providing proper and responsible working practices, as you can understand from these few quotations, at least some people think that this law firm is financially very, very successful, but it comes at a certain cost for people working there. And then obviously also most of the people talking in this article are previous partners. And as you also know, as a partner, you don't have that protection as employees have. So so this picture is a former CEO of that law firm. He is not a lawyer or a partner himself. He was a hired CEO, and he is also referred in the article, saying that, you know, this working with this law firm is a way of life. You have to work through the whole weekend and all night because you have to deliver on the stock market announcement at 8:30 on Monday morning. Of course, that doesn't apply to every lawyer and every week and weekend, but as he sums it up, not all spouses think this is so fun, so it's a choice of values. And obviously you can imagine that the burden on people working under such conditions are quite hard. Then there is another law firm, and now another partner saying that, or remembering from his time in the early 2010s, the managing partner at that time made the time list of each individual employee public in each department so that everyone could see whether they had more or less hours than their colleagues. And of course, people reacted to this, and they felt that they were on a pillory, which is illustrated on the right-hand side here. So especially if you were at the bottom of the time lists, you would feel you were in a pillory. So now we are going, you remember that list of articles? This is the second from the bottom. And there is a conservative politician in Norway saying that this is completely irresponsible, the practice that is described in the article. But then, and then we have a politician from the left side of Norwegian politics saying that there should be a cap on lawyer hourly rates. But then we have a third article from another lawyer. You can see him in a blue jacket, and he says that, well, actually, you have to admire these people. He's also a conservative politician. He's a lawyer, and he says, well, it's entirely possible to invoice 2,800 hours a year. You just skip holidays and you skip weekends. At least you work weekends, and if you do that, you're there, he says. So as you can see, the reactions in Norwegian public life are quite differing. And then in this same article, which I'm showing now, I'm also interviewed. This article appeared after I had my reader's letter. And you can see me on the picture there with my dog. And my point in this article is to say that it, in a way, obviously it's doable, but it doesn't add up if you also want to live sort of having a kind of a private life, right? Because, and I try to explain to the journalist that if a lawyer is reporting to work or has a requirement to work 2,000 hours, you need to spend at least 2,500 hours in the office, right? Or at work. So, because there are so many mechanisms or dynamics in how we invoice our services. So, and very interesting, the newspaper had included in their reporting study from Yale Law School, and you can see a facsimile from it here, and the link is down on the right-hand side. But this article or this little extract from the study is sort of describing how you have a gap between the amount of hours in the office and the hours that you can actually bill. So a little bit of a theoretical or academic research there. So going to my little reader's letter, I say initially in my letter to the newspaper, which was published and printed, that I'm not really writing about this law firm as such, but I think that the article is illustrating how, or it gives a prompt and an encouragement to companies to think about what are the working conditions of, for instance, their law firms. And of course, it can be an engineering firm, it can be an architectural firm, it could be a consultancy, right? But these are knowledge workers. And many companies are not only buying goods and the transport services, they also buy knowledge services, and a knowledge or expertise providing supplier is a business partner for the customer. So, and I refer in my article to the Norwegian Transparency Act. It's an act which is reasonably new, and to say it simply, it requires companies to report on human rights and working conditions in their own company and in their supply chains and with business partners. And I think that for our European audience, you can just forget about the Norwegian Act and think about the social dimension of ESG. Because what you need to do as a company is to understand and to investigate how your suppliers and how your business partners are treating their people, right? So this is also the topic of the Norwegian Transparency Act. It's so the article forms a good example for the social and the governance dimensions of ESG. And it's important that companies understand that this is part of their responsibility to understand how their business directly and indirectly affect people. When you make this assessment in your own company and with your suppliers and business partners, you do a double materiality analysis. And this is something at least many Norwegian companies are currently wondering how to do in practice. So I take this article as a basis for setting out some principles. And then also I point to that this law firm, which is at the core of the media coverage, they too must do a stakeholder dialogue and map out what their clients expect from them regarding environmental matters and social matters and governance matters, right? So the EU's requirements for responsible working practices apply to the public, to private companies, and to the voluntary or not-for-profit sector. And although we are a bit confused now, maybe, at least some companies are, after a while, when this has been in work for a year, for some years, I think it will be much clearer to everybody. So we just need to get started. What you need to do is to identify the targets for your business and publish those targets. And then you need to describe your plans to reach the targets. And this description of your plans should be published. You should also publish a description of your organization to meet the targets and the measures you will put in place, which is more or less the plan, right? So in order to understand what targets would be most relevant to you, you do the double materiality analysis and use that as a basis for prioritizing your measures. And the point of ESG reporting is to be open about targets, plans, results, and materiality analysis, so that your stakeholders can understand where you have your highest impact and how you work to control that impact. And then measures and results that you achieve must be documented, and the reports must be confirmed by an auditor. So, for instance, this law firm, when they, and my encouragement is that they do a stakeholder stakeholder dialogue, asking their clients, what do you expect from us when it comes to working hours and working conditions? And then some companies may say, we don't care, we just want the best legal services and we're willing to pay for it, and it's up to you how you run your company. Other companies will say, well, in our company, we are focused on treating our employees in a very decent manner. And obviously, we cannot have business partners, or we cannot have suppliers who don't practice the same level of responsibility that we carry out. So that's the kind of a dialogue. It should be documented, and then you can report on it, and it's part of the analysis for you to prioritize where do we need to improve. And I say it a little bit simply that, I mean, the goals or the targets that you establish should be of a kind that you will be happy to report about when you achieve them. If you're not proud to write your report, you're really not proud about your targets and your work and your results. And law firms are no exemption here. So in the future, we will, of course, distinguish good from bad companies based on their financial results. But not only that, we will also look at how companies, public entities, and not non-for-profit operators are what goals and results they are achieving within the environmental and social aspects. So the future of identifying a good from a bad or a not so good company is more complicated than it used to be when financial results were the main issue. And then yesterday there was a follow-up article in the same newspaper, and that article was about Nordea being a big Nordic bank, asking Schjøtt to explain the connectivity between their rates, their invoicing requirements on employees, and their secret point system in order to advance within the company. So this is the first clear example we have that actually now the clients are starting to ask the law firm. And just to have said it, I did not say in my, actually I stated initially in my little reader's letter that I'm not saying that clients should stop using this law firm, right? I'm just saying that clients should ask the law firm about the practices. And we see now that Nordea has started that, and probably also other clients, right? So I want to finish my presentation with this little figure showing one way of illustrating ESG maturity. And you will receive the slides afterwards, so I'm not going through the text. But the thing is that this illustrates how from a basic you have a compliance with minimum requirements, but the most successful in ESG achieve a competitive edge through sustainability, right? So when you start using sustainability to really become a better version of yourself, that is when you have a high level of ESG maturity. And the opposite case is the loser's case, as I call it, ESG immaturity, where you may imagine a market leader mainly or only focusing on financial results without any attention to ESG, will go into a declining trend. Risks connected with social, environmental, and governmental aspects will materialize because they don't pay attention. And after a while, they will have a harder time getting insurance and a harder time getting investors. And eventually, in my scenario, they will be uninsurable and uninvestable. So obviously, working with ESG, it is my personal deep belief that E and S and G represent very, very relevant risks, and both ways. So as a risk on the company and also the impact aspect. So treat it as risk management, do relevant measures to improve, and you will be able to report on your development and appear with a higher degree of credibility. This will be very attractive to employees and to investors. So yeah, that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Cecilia. It was really shocking, I would say, and sad to hear about such an articles about the law firms in Oslo. Although you said it's not an exemption, yes, law firms are the same part of the business. But as I said after Rūta's presentations, we should be the example of the good practices and educators. And in these cases, sometimes it looks like we are the bad examples.
Yeah, but you know, we're also very ambitious people. Quite a few lawyers have a very high working capacity, and I think it's too easy to say that we should, you know, not work hard, because also we are representing clients who have very, very important values at stake, and they expect us to really be their fighter, right? So, but still we need to do it within the frame of decency, obviously.
Yeah, I truly agree with you. And I believe we will have a chance to discuss later on. And now I would like to invite our third presenter, Vaida from Rimi Baltic Group, to share her presentation. And really exciting to hear about the cases and good practices from the retailer business. Rimi Group is one of the biggest retailers in Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia in the Baltic countries, and also part of ICA Group, the Swedish retailer. Vaida is an HR manager, so looking to hear what kind of social aspects in ESG Rimi is implementing. And I really noticed myself as a consumer that really a lot. Vaida, welcome. The stage is yours.
Hello, everyone. Vilma, sorry, I won't share all the areas because we as a Rimi group are focusing on 5 different CR areas, but today I will present a little bit more and share a bit more regarding diversity corner, because under our company's cornerstones, social responsibility, it is one of the main element, and we are focusing as a retailer and for locality part and the quality part and environmental issues, but one of the part that is diversity. So here I want to share a bit practical cases and how we are listening our customers, our employees, and how we're acting and try to solve some things and implement good other practices. So to start my presentation, I really want to share a bit more statistics and data, how we were doing. I hope you are seeing correctly the presentation. So we have more than 3,000 employees. And some time ago, in 2007, we faced, the challenging situation in the market when we started to look more openly and more widely to integrate employees with disability. And this is the starting year when we started to work with this diversity group. And we hired hearing impairment people, and now we increased and we have very wide of different employees in our group. So as you could see in the graph, we have very different generations working in our organization. We also have very different employee groups. So one of the parts we have elder employees, and it is more than 40% of our organization. We have a bit more than 5% employees with different disabilities. In diversity charter, we are naming as employees with different abilities. And additionally, what we have, it is quite new area, I would say, in Lithuania market. Few years ago we started and now increased. We reached a bit more than 7%. It is foreigners, so employees who came from other countries. And, when we started our journey with the diversity in 2007, in the market, it was very new things. And as Rūta mentioned regarding harassment thing, regarding bullying areas, regarding the tolerance level in the society, and even in our organization, we started from ourselves. And we started with the top-level managers to understand and agree about the strategy and overall about the company positions. And when we had a discussion and when we wanted to implement areas and what it is, our strategy, we go through all our employee experience journey in an organization. So when we were thinking about the attraction part, so we were implementing the attraction, recruitment, and selection policies, and here putting our position regarding equal rights, equal treatment, how we are selecting candidates, what it is important that we are not allowing discrimination on other areas, that it would be culture or gender or other part, the salaries. When we were thinking about onboarding part, what it is important for us, training and education of the teams. So what it is, guidelines is how we are working. And in that time, we were even establishing, we are calling like hotlines, but it is the open lines, and where employees could call and could claim or could raise the question. In the group level, we invented whistleblowing services. We created guidelines and policies regarding equal rights and prevention of the harassment part. Now we are focusing on mobbing prevention and educating all employees and including managers. But we were very open during all these processes lines because it was quite new for us, and we were listening what our employees and what our customers are saying during different surveys, during different practices. When we were talking about talent development and setting the process itself, also how to ensure equal rights, so how we are establishing criteria and competences development plan and mapping. And in Lithuania retail, it is a bit different than in some of the other European countries. They are mainly women are working. So we even want to increase men ratio in our organization. And we also are setting and discussing, okay, how and what we want to measure, what KPIs we want to set, and what we want to track during the monthly basis, during the yearly basis, and what we also want to share these good practices from other organizations. Motivation and retention and exit in all these areas, for us, it is important to be a part and ensure these equal rights. What additionally I want to mention, and maybe advise some small organizations who just starting the social responsibility area. So first of all, I would advise to agree and find the areas where you could develop or where you don't have competences or you are lacking, like behind other organizations. Not try to put all possible areas, and maybe it is better to fix one by one and identify some key elements you want to change. So from our field, during that journey, I would say that still we are learning a lot. The legislation part is also changing, and also the labor environment is changing now. For example, working with foreigners is lots of new things that we really need to learn, we really need to adapt, and it is important that companies would be open. So we are organizing every year, and during their year period, for example, people listening different surveys where we are including and job safety and job environment and diversity and inclusion and discrimination part questions. And afterwards, when we are getting the results, we are analyzing the data, for example, from where our employees are getting discrimination part, sadly, but we really need to educate and our customers and our society, because usually they face discrimination and even from our clients. Then also we need to make an action plan, what we want to change and what we want to adjust, that our employees could feel safe, they would have equal rights, and they could be very authentic what we are reaching and have very high level, and we want to keep that part. And even a few years ago, we understand that we cannot, create different activities inside our organization. We really need to think about environment. So in our stores, you could see lots of different communication regarding education part. We're educating our employee regarding different cultures, different disabilities, how to act, how to speak, how to adapt different processes. But we also are training our customers and even our suppliers. Few years ago, we established that with every supplier, we assign an additional contract annex, and it is social responsibility annex, where we are putting what for us it is important that they should ensure regarding employment, regarding products, and all these areas, what we are having under our CR strategy. So mutual agreement, not only between employee and employer, but also regarding partners with whom we are working. Then also regarding the environment. So every employee with different disability, it needs different environment. So we also need to listen and adapt as much as we possible. It could be work schedule, it could be work environment, it could be clothes, it could be the store, it could be arrangement or accommodation part, but we should be inclusive and tolerant and create different practice as it is in the country currently. And sure, labor part, it's lots of different questions appearing, how we need to treat, how we need to approach, how to taxable, what documents to provide, or what consultations to make. So it is also important part to adjust, not, to fit that we established some time ago, and that's it. You all the time need to follow up the updates and what is happening with the new practices in the courts, and that you need to adjust and see that you are compliant or you need to adjust something. CR should be a part of the strategy. You need to have a CR strategy in place, and what areas, as I mentioned, what KPIs as you are measuring, but also you need to be a part, CR activities, a part of the business strategy. So what it is important for the business to be sustainable in what of the areas and what you want to reach. And this is not only like manager's responsibility, it is responsibility for all employees. And this is the main part, how to empower these employees, how to empower our managers, how to be a role models for the teams, how the teams could be the role models for our clients or for the teammates. So you need to put the criteria and put under the company's level strategy. Also to have a supporting partner. Supporting partners sometimes could be from the external lawyers company. It could be from internal HR field experts, or for some store managers. So all the time you need to advise if you don't know something, or it is like new case appear or new questions you get. So try not to listen, but you need to have a supportive partners where you could coach. Here we are a part of diversity charter, and we have a group of organizations that they are a part of, and we can consult in different areas, and maybe they could share also good practices with us. Internal communication, that's for sure. You need to address and find right channels that they could reach all employees in all possible languages, with all the right treatment, with all the equal rights for everyone and understandable language. So this is a part, when you need even the system, when you need to e-learning or other things to adapt that everybody could be in charge of. It could be, and it should be, a part of your company DNA or the culture. So how you're spreading the values, how you're communicating, what you are communicating, and what you're saying to the society. Education part I mentioned, and for sure KPIs. So what you want to track, what you want to follow up, and even on the yearly basis, you need to review what additionally you want to add or remove. It is important to have or not important anymore, and what action plans we as a company or every team could make that we could develop this these different areas, and now I'm sharing more regarding diversity corner, talking about social responsibility area. So thank you. This is what I wanted to share, and hope you will have some questions in the end of presentation.
Thank you, Vaida. It was really interesting to hear your practices as well. And now we are having the time for our panel discussion. And first of all, I would like to invite Tomas Bagdanskis, our managing partner of ILAW LEXTAL Vilnius office, to speak about his perspective. Actually, ILAW Vilnius office is ranked as the #1 employment law firms, and Tomas is an employment lawyer. So how do you find it, this social responsibility from the employment law perspective? Is it enough to implement the imperatives of the employment law? How do you see the regulation in Lithuania?
Hello, everybody. So firstly, I would like to say many thanks to Cecilie, Vaida, Rūta, and you, Vilma, that you are leading this seminar. So shortly, how we decided to have such idea, we thought what could be interesting, not only locally, but internationally to, let's say, our partners and clients from employment law perspective. And we found that this ESG topic is, I think, new one, and not everybody understands. And just to, let's say, share our connections between employment and ESG. So I will answer to your question, but I also will provide one example from Lithuanian Court of Appeal. It's a rather new decision in the court practice, and it very good reveals that this ESG and employment issues connections are coming. So what was the situation? So the one school just organized the public procurement regarding the catering service. So it means just delivery the food for the kids, and they put, you know, two criteria here. One was the price criteria, and another was, let's say, quality criteria. And between this quality criteria, we asked one information to deliver in that competition. How many, let's say, how much money are you paying for your employees? So it means they asked, provide the companies who participating in that competition about their salaries level, you know, to the employees. And the second place winner argued that, you know, the results of competition saying, look, it was too much, you know, information we were asked to provide, and there is no correlation between, you know, food price and the salaries of our employees. And the Court of Appeal said that, look, ESG is coming, and it is legally normal that the school who is buying the services is checking, are you social responsible in the point of view regarding the paying fair salaries. So what does it mean? It means that it's coming, and it could be the real criteria. If you are not following that criteria related with ESG, you can, let's say, fail in the competition. So I think it's very good example, but these, let's say, soft rules that usually they are treated this like ESG as soft rules, becoming not so soft and becoming hard rules. So here is the example from my side. And what is also just, I think, very important, talking from the employment law, just to understand how these three letters, E, S, G, concretely is related with the employment law and HR issues. So what Cecilie and Vaida you told, talking about the non-discrimination, equal treatment, working hours, and so on. So usually it's the part of this social social part in this letter, let's say like S, and we can of course broaden that attitude towards the, let's say, all the company values toward that, diversity and inclusion, about hybrid work, and so on and so on. So here many topics to, you know, to cover here. When we are talking about E, it's, you know, E, it means environmental. And it could be the question, and for me was also the question, how this environmental issue could be related with the, let's say, employment issue. And one good example was like that look, if the company is damaging the nature, so do the employee has protection if he let's say notice the institutions about his employer is damaging the nature. And here is with, let's say, direct relationship between that. If I have good protection, that if I am, you know, providing such information to the inspection and to authorities, it means that I am saving the nature. And it's also the obligation from employer to protect what? Whistleblower, to have whistleblower protection policy. So it's one example. Another example was that, for example, if I am very active, you know, in the field of protecting nature, and I am, let's say, making some, you know, I don't know, some opinions in my social media and so on. So it was also a good example that if you are participating in the recruitment process in the company, and they are checking your social media. So this attitude toward providing the nature could be, from legal side, be treated as a philosophical belief. And as you know, we cannot, let's say, treat differently people according to philosophical belief. So that's another issue that related to the environmental. And the last one, also, these, let's say, behaviors that company inside promotes, let's say, employees how to behave. For example, if I am saying, let's go to the workplace by bicycle, and I will cover you some, let's say, expenses, it's also related with employment, and it's also related with ESG. And the last one is governance. It's more easier to explain. It means that the company strategy should be related to ESG. You should follow all obligations from the, let's say, labor codes and labor laws. And you also need to report to institutions if it is the obligation. Also, you need to collect data and to report about it and make, you know, adjustment here. So it, as Vaida, you said, very, I think, precisely, that it comes from what? From management, yeah, and it's from strategy, from management till implementation that reach every, let's say, employee in our company. So that's shortly, Vilma, how I see that this topic is really important, and there are so many links here, but it's not easy to understand how it correlates if you're not dealing every day. So as I said, every company is dealing with ESG, but not everybody understands that it is part of ESG. So that's my insights regarding this topic. And of course, I am open to answer the questions if we are going to have.
Thank you, Thomas. I think it's really important what you said. And the example of the Court of Appeal shows that really not only private sector customers, but also the public sector is giving these questions to their suppliers. So I guess that the day will come, and looks like in Oslo already has come. Like even we as lawyers will be asked how we are treating our lawyers or our employees. And even in public tenders, probably, yes. So that's really important what you said. And step by step, I think we will have this awareness about the ESG, yes, and how to start this long trip, because it's really the trip for the company to become sustainable. Or maybe you will not become 100% sustainable at all. I also have a question for you all. what could be like, let's say, one advice from you? Yes, like one thing that, let's say, small or medium business owner really willing to start socially responsible behavior, ESG journey for his company should start with. What kind of first thing, but really real thing, not a greenwashing, yes, thing he or she could do? So I don't know which of you would like to unmute or share your advice. So feel free. Yes, Cecilia, I think is raising her hand. Please.
Yeah, I did. Yes. So, I mean, the advice I think now for every undertaking is to sort of do everything in a systematized and structured way, because you need to. I mean, I've started to say, or like I'm repeatedly saying that if you have a change in some regard and you think that that's a good change, you know, I would be proud to announce or to report about that change. If you haven't previously set out that change as a target and describe your plan to reach that change or development or result, you cannot really report on it as an improvement because it may be a coincidence, right? It's only when you set out a target and commit to plans to reach your target, that's when you are able to truly report on an improvement. You know, so my advice to everyone or to every company is to make a system from steering documents, specifying your targets, describing your plans, doing the things that you've said that you will be doing, and then report on how it went. That's the circle of responsibility and sustainability work.
Thank you. Thank you. Some other
advices?
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree with Cecilia, what you mentioned. You know, first of all, I would say to look on your business from a bit different perspective. So in what of the area you are operating, first of all, and what environment you overall have. I don't know, you're working in smaller city or town, or you're working in some capital, and what of the area, or what of the type of the business. And then, you know, to have a discussion even with the management, or at least like not only one, at least with some of the partner of the company. So what could be this minimum value steps that they could step? For example, if it is like manufacturing, or we as a retailers, and we are seeing that, you know, we have this food waste part because of expiry day. So how we could support, what steps we could make, working with food bank, working with the PR people, and all that part. If you are working with a lot of employees, so maybe you could change from their angle and perspective regarding schedules, regarding environment or diversity part. So not to create like big plans that they could look like it's not reachable and we won't start anytime, but at least to create some few elements of areas from where to start and where you want to be. And that maybe helps to develop a bit and it look smooth process, not very, very long and not reachable journey.
Yeah, thank you, Vaida. I think it's really a good idea to ask your stakeholders, yes, your employees, your consumers, what you said, yes, your communities, not only your shareholders, about what we should do, what targets we should reach. So that's really, I think, a good advice to identify what are your stakeholders overall, in what kind of area or region or business are you in. Thank you. And I don't know, Rūta, Tomas, maybe you have one advice for the businesses to share.
Of course I have, but maybe Rūta
even
first.
Not one, maybe 10, but please give just one, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just can add, something, especially once we are talking about the social aspect here. So once we have a decision, once we elaborate on our values as a company's values, right? And we not only have to have system and policies in place, but we also have to do something, right? So I would also like to address here education. I talked in my presentation a little bit about that. We have to educate employees. We have to invest in employees' well-being and development, which is really important. So we have to invest in their well-being and professional growth, which then demonstrates a strong commitment to social responsibility. We can include offering competitive wages and benefits for the employees, creating opportunities for professional development, also implementing flexible work arrangements. Thomas told a little bit about the hybrid work and so on and so forth. So this is with what we live in every single day, probably as much as we can. And of course, establishing a safe, inclusive, and respectful workplace for employees. So probably not also to think and to have, but also to do.
That's very important, yes.
Yeah, and I will like just to continue maybe the idea of the Rūta, but for me, one advice is like this. Honestly, to answer two questions. One is, what are your company standards? And these standards could be divided in two parts. One is legal part, another is above the law. So it means more than the law demands. But answering to your question that you provided me, what about the law? So I could say that, for example, in Lithuania, if you implement very honestly what the law requires, so you be rather on good level regarding ESG, as I say. So first question, so what are your standards? And here the answer comes in every company. Adding what Vaida said, according to the specific sector in which you are working. Also, it's very important issue, yeah? And the second question is, if you have standards, how are you implementing them? Yeah, because to have standard is one thing, but to implement them is different topic. And of course, measuring what is the level of implementation and of course of adjustment. So I think here is important to mention.
Thank you. Thank you. And I really think that we could discuss the social responsibility issues for unlimited amount of hours. Actually, the topic is really, really very wide one. And many things companies will have to report according to CSRD. But not each company has all the things, the same issues important, yes. So I would like to thank you all really for interesting insights. And I really wish to our participants to take at least one thing, as I said, that they could practically use in their work practices. Is it maybe a law firm or some other kind of business? We will really share our video record with all the participants and the other material from our speakers. And of course, we are all open to discuss later on and to share. We are reachable through our LinkedIn or through other possible channels of communication. My insight from our webinar is that really ESG topic is really cross-border issue. And the cases that we are having in Oslo or in Vilnius or in some other Europe city, we will really have shared and cross-border in other countries. So we can educate each other across Europe and help each other, especially when businesses are also related and the market is one, yes, in EU. So I wish good luck for everyone and thank you for participating.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.